Now I think we are really good to introduce our next speaker, Anastasia Taymanova from Dataduck. And there's actually a little story about Anastasia and how she decided to become a presenter on Log from Home. She was attending our previous event in February, and she was really interested in the presentation of David Durinak, and they connected in LinkedIn. They were chatting about challenges for localization managers, and David encouraged Anastasia to come to the next Log from Home and share with you guys her experience and how she organized a localization process in her company. So probably, not probably, I'm sure it will be a very interesting presentation and very useful for you guys. Anastasia, you already here?
Hi, Max. Yeah, I'm here. Hi, everyone.
Thank you very much to make this decision. I know it's your first time as a speaker. Don't worry, relax. We have a very nice audience. Guys, let's support Anastasia. Would be great if you can send something in chat to help her get started.
Thank you, guys. So
yeah, the floor is yours.
I think we can start. Hopefully you can see my screen. I have shared.
Yeah, we can see your screen. You're welcome.
So guys, thanks again for having me today. I'm really excited to take part in today's Log from Home. Okay, let's start with a few words about myself. My name is Anastasia Taymanova. I lead a localization team at Dataduck. Dataduck is an international digital marketing agency. Our company is specializing in promotion of fintech products. We work globally, providing complete support in launching marketing campaigns for our fintech customers. We do various sorts of advertising, mostly digital advertising, and our activities actually include creative copywriting, content marketing. We have our own in-house video production team. We also take care of design. We run a lot of web and development projects, and of course, we have our internal localization team for all of that. When I joined Dataduck 3.5 years ago, the company was just at the very beginning of its expansion into the global market. And I have traveled a difficult and interesting way, starting with short and chaotic messages in our corporate messenger Slack, like, for example, translate that packshot into 4 languages ASAP, or the guys from legal team say it is translated wrongly. But it changed. We did it bit by bit. We did great work and very hard work, and at the end, it turned to a flawless workflow for localization of different advertising types, considering all of our customers' needs. And now that we have created this streamlined localization workflow, my team has grown from 1 person to 5. I think that's not only about organizational and technological aspects, which were important on this path, but it is also about the human factor. It is about the ability to build relationships with localization stakeholders and cross-functional teams, so as they become aware of internal localization workflow. The ability to get colleagues from other teams to consider and respect the specifics of localization in their product and project planning is essential. And today I will focus on the key problems that the Dataduck localization team encountered in building relationships with their colleagues from product and marketing teams, and share my experience and some tricks of how we managed to overcome these problems and manage to ensure fast and effective collaboration across the company. Let's step aside from discussing pure technological things and talk more about relationships. Okay, there are 3 points I believe we should focus on today. The first one is about correct positioning. I'm going to speak about how to position, how I positioned myself as a localization team in order to build localization awareness throughout the company. Then I'm going to speak a bit about how to educate and nurture colleagues steadily. And then I'm going to talk about which advantages the properly set up communication brings in, combined with collaboration. It's about creating partnerships between the localization team and its stakeholders. Okay, let's talk about positioning. A successful relationship depends on how the parties actually understand the purpose of their relationship. While building my localization workflow, I realized that I had made a big mistake. For a long time, I saw my team as a kind of internal translation agency, and I had positioned myself and my team in accordance with that fact. And this was quite normal for me because I got an extensive background in the translation industry as both translator and project manager for translation agencies. On the one hand, it helped me a lot. The experience I gained allowed me to quickly build the workflow in the right way from the get-go. I mean, purely organizational things like selecting the right TMS and CAT tools, establishing QA workflow, finding vendors, setting up terminology glossary, and keeping it up to date. But on the other hand, at a certain point, I realized that I was separating myself too much from the company as a whole and from other teams and colleagues in particular by positioning my team as a translation agency. But I was already functioning as a part of a marketing agency with a very specific fintech orientation. That sounds obvious, but true, being parts of the same company, teams need to work closely together and to be open to each other because we have common goals. And it is a mistake to view your own department as a cog in the machine, to focus solely on your job responsibilities and not seek to understand how other teams do their job. If you want to make others respect you and consider your workflow in their planning, you have to take steps forward to your colleagues and out of your comfort zone. And this is a very proactive approach, by the way. With this in mind, I have formulated 3 basic rules that I think every in-house localization team should always follow. The first and the most important one is learn the product you are localizing. You don't have to be a keen user, an expert in it, or even a fan of the product. However, it is important to know its basic features and the interface. To make this easier in your company, employees hold in my company, employees hold special and regular product training sessions. We talk about the features of fintech products, learn their basic mechanics, etc. It is also customary for us to regularly publish news related to the release of the next version of the product in our corporate messenger. The second rule, research what other teams are doing. Be curious. Get to the bottom of it. It is customary for us to have demo presentations in which colleagues from different teams talk about what they do, their areas of responsibility, and share their expertise. Each team also has its own channel on Slack where they share news and important changes. It is also very helpful to understand who is responsible for what, especially if the company is growing rapidly. And it is convenient to keep an organizational chart always on hand so you can quickly find information on who to write or call when you need it. And after all, it is a very exciting process. Our agency has a niche fintech specialization, but I have learned a lot about the workflow of creating advertising, about video production, workflow, user acquisition technology, design trends, etc. And thirdly, do not be afraid of requests which are not directly related to your area of responsibility. Don't be in a hurry to say no. First, I think about how I can help my colleague, even it is not directly related to localization. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Building relationships with other teams often means working outside our direct sphere of responsibility, but your efforts won't be forgotten by your colleagues. This is also very exciting and allows you to learn a lot and to establish useful connections across the company. For example, in the past, when telling other teams about my work, I liked to point out not only what the localization team does, but also advocate for what we don't do, because we have other teams for that. And here are the three statements I like to point out while explaining other teams what I do. The localization team does not create content, because we have a special creative team for that. The localization team doesn't do market research or text adaptation, because we have a content marketing team. And the localization team does not do the markup, because we have development team for that. But now I'm not that categorical in my wording. It may sound a bit vague, but at least it shows that I'm ready to help, even if it's not quite my area of responsibility. And for example, being asked to translate something so that it works well, I don't know, in Vietnam or in Thailand, nowadays that frustrates me a lot less than it did some time ago. To summarize it, do your best to help your colleagues and don't be afraid to learn something new. It isn't a question of where the lines of responsibility should be. And often it makes sense to soften the environment and find out what's beyond your sphere. The next aspect of building relationships with localization stakeholders successfully is the education aspect. When demonstrating my proactivity, I always remember to methodically remind my colleagues what my team's workflow looks like to increase our relevance. We all know that people only pay attention to localization when things go wrong. So let them learn more about what you are doing and how you do that. As I mentioned earlier, we have a widespread practice of holding demo presentations and lectures in which colleagues talk about their workflow and teach others how to properly interact with their team. In my lectures, I help my colleagues better understand how localization affects their own team success, so they start to pay more attention to us. And that ensures our continuous corporate visibility. Of course, lectures alone are not enough, and not everyone has the time to attend them. And it is very important to capture the workflow in writing and keep it always up to date. Fortunately, there are many handy online tools for this. I have written several concise instructions that document what a localization team is, what we do, how to create a task for localization, how to write a task brief, etc. I made separate descriptions about the localization workflow for specific ads and specific types of documents. I added a few articles with basic information about localization. And on this slide, you can see a screenshot from our Confluence workspace that includes all the topics I think are crucial for my colleagues from other teams to know. I always keep handy a demo presentation about localization teams work, and I use it when I meet new key people in the company. The setup meetings help learn more about each other's workflow and core competences and agree about further cooperation. Unfortunately, many people will still argue that education and that sorts of evangelization are fine, but not everyone is prepared to be educated, actually, for a variety of reasons that may be lack of time or just laziness. Therefore, in practice, localization teams keep getting questions from their colleagues, which can cause all shades of negative reactions, from condescending smiles to eye-rolling and outright anger. And here are my top 3 annoying questions I received from localization stakeholders. I'm sure they look very similar to what you also have in your experience. Okay, the first one is my favorite. And I think that many people just don't get and will never get what context is and why it's so important. The second question came from the development team. It's about time-sensitive projects, and we know what it is. And we know that time-sensitive projects are typical for agile development and continuous localization. But in this case, it's not about speed. I mean that some colleagues assume that it's okay to put their workflow on the same line with your workflow. And yes, I think that localization may last over 5 days. That's okay with us, but not with other teams who assume that we do it just instantly. And here is the third question on my top 3. I think there's actually nothing to comment here. And when I get something like this, I even don't explain people that we not only translate this only one line with our vendors. We might have an extra editing task for that one line, but if I tell some of my colleagues that truth, maybe that will really blow their mind. So if you want to learn how to put up with this, just realize one simple fact. Colleagues don't have to know the details of your work. They don't have to understand how hard it is for you. Hence, be patient and friendly and try not to let your emotions get the better of you. But if it already happened and you somehow lost your temper, then just do your homework. Arrange a meeting with your colleague, discuss the reasons of conflict, and think about how to avoid such incidents in the future. Now that many people work from home, written communication has increased, and we all know that written communication in isolation is fraught with tendency to read between the lines and consequently escalate conflict. Hence, live meetings are crucial. At the beginning, I mentioned that it's important for the localization team to position itself properly in order to align with the company's goals. And the backbone of such positioning is, without a doubt, communication. Any successful relationship is built on proper communication. Communication refers to the interaction between localization team and their stakeholders or partners. And if communication results in collaboration, then that's a perfect outcome. Working at Dataduck, I have seen how communication with colleagues can lead to successful collaboration, and I would like to give a couple of examples from my experience. The first example is about embracing useful integrations, and it relates to collaboration with the development team. At some point, we realized that both sides were uncomfortable sharing translation files in the way it worked at the time. The developers were not happy with the speed. We, as a localization team, were not happy with our workload, so we came up with a solution that suits everyone by developing an in-house system to quickly solve some translation issues. Additionally, the Smartcat platform helped us a lot. A big advantage of the Smartcat platform is its open API. It allowed us to set up continuous content localization without any problems. Our development team created a system to handle localizable content for their needs and connected it to our corporate Smartcat account. So no more manually uploading files to projects, exchanging emails with edits. The whole process now takes place in a single environment, and you can see the screenshot from that environment. It connects developers, testers, editors, project managers, and other team members, and translation automatically follows development. Developers now make changes to source files and send them to the repository, which is linked to the Smartcat. The files automatically appear in the project, and work can start on them right away. As soon as the translation is finished, the localized file is sent back to the developers. And here's the second example that illustrates how useful it can be to learn from other teams and learn from their experience. Our information security team came up with a cool solution for solving user problems across the company using our Slack messenger. They automated the workflow in their corporate channel on Slack, where colleagues address all kinds of queries. We implemented a similar solution in the localization Slack channel. This need was due to the fact that the localization team also gets a lot of questions and queries related to localization, but not necessarily leading to a separate task in our task tracker Jira, which is our core main task tracker. And solving such questions in personal messaging is quite difficult because there's a risk that messages get lost. That's why we have created a channel and partially automated the workflow there. So how does it actually work? When somebody, here you can see a screenshot with an example of a request in that localization channel. And every time a localization manager sees or gets notification about a new message in this channel, the manager can set a certain reaction below the post. You can see the eyes reaction. And after we set this reaction, the bot shows up in the thread and notifies that the question was taken to work and creates corresponding micro task in a specially created interface. And when the issue is solved, the localization manager sets another reaction. It's a memo reaction. Then the task is automatically closed, and the author receives a readiness notification asking him for feedback. This system allows us to structure the flow of requests, and a separate interface behind Slack allows us to keep statistics on the amount of work done and track efficiency through feedback. Okay, now that I have covered all my key points in detail, I would like to summarize them to 3 key takeaways, key rules that I try to follow in my work. Be open to your colleagues, educate them, and collaborate with them. I hope this has been helpful for you. Thank you for your attention. I'm happy to answer your questions.
Anastasia, thank you very much. Let me just read one comment from chat from Sarah. I really relate to what you say, Anastasia. Thanks a lot. Communication and collaboration is the key.
Thank you.
Okay, let's announce the gift. What is the book? Let me quickly check. I think. Oh yeah, it's the legendary Black Swan.
Yeah.
By Nassim Taleb. So
yeah,
this will be
right.
the gift for the best question. Okay, so let's start. Wow, we have 6 votes for one of the questions. Why is localization and content not one team?
Thank you for that question, by the way. Okay. I see it as a best practice in many companies that localization and content are one team. I can say, speaking of our company, it's the way how it went from the very beginning. I mean, I was hired as an only localization manager, and then it just turned that. So the situation developed in that way. So we work as a separate team, and that suits all the needs. So I mean that collaboration between localization team and content team works fine in the terms that we have. But, well, to summarize, it's how it works in our company, and it's convenient for everybody.
Okay, good. Then let's move to the question from, by the way, this was the question from Claudia, and the question from Anna. How did you manage to reposition localization team within your organization? Was the challenge?
Of course, that was a challenge, and this is actually what I was speaking about. I think that the core thing was about my self-positioning in the company. When I realized that I position myself as a translation agency by separating myself from other teams, then I somehow realized that it's wrong, and thought that maybe I should be more open to other guys and to be more curious about what they are doing.
Okay, so it's actually these takeaways that you shared on the last um, slide. Okay, the question from Kate, a lot of great advice here. As for communication, what would you recommend to do first to minimize over-interpreting and therefore conflict in your team or in the company when working remotely?
Um, well,
Oh,
speaking specifically of remote work, um, well, in our company, we overcame that stress related to remote work quite successfully. And I think that the key was our streamlined workflow, documented. And I think that the key is also about evangelization and education of your colleagues in a steady way. So always remind that you exist. Always be patient.
I wanted to
And
add this, be patient, yeah.
yes, be patient about colleagues' questions, and just keep methodically educate them about how you work. Just give more information. Remind on this Confluence page. Uh, don't be lazy to arrange meetings, evangelization meetings with your colleagues.
Our last previous event motto was "Be stronger by sharing." So I think that
Yeah,
this one
that's
is
right.
useful here as well.
That's it. Yeah,
Okay.
sharing.
The question from Saul: how important is continuous localization in non-software environments?
Um, that depends on which product you are doing. I mean, we do a lot of digital marketing related to, and we work very closely with our customers. We actually do continuous localization for their products. So I would say that it's not that we do non-software continuous localization. We actually do software continuous localizations.
Yeah, maybe you know how it is in non-software. I think that was the question was, but yeah, we can leave it probably for networking. The question from Hee Young Kim: where is the organization chart do you think localization should belong for the team to communicate and collaborate most effectively with the other teams?
Um, that's a very good question. Um, and as I said, in response to the first question, uh, it very much depends on the on the company and on the history. There's historical aspect of how the company was started its activity, how it started grow and expand the global market. And in our case, it was at the very beginning, it was kind of chaotic process that was really tough. But in my opinion, localization should be a separate department within a company, and it should always raise its awareness, or at least let people, make colleagues from other teams aware um, of themselves, to always let them know that we're here, we're relevant. And this is only possible if you act as a separate localization department, being responsible for both product and marketing.
Let's then take a look on the next question from Sankes Hwari. I'm sorry if I pronounced it wrongly. How did you gain the trust, confidence of your stakeholders with all these challenges, especially when it comes to low volume translations where they asked, why not Google Translate instead?
Okay, again, that was not easy, and this is also the case where it's all about patience and about continuous evangelization, about meetings, especially meetings in person. Sometimes even a small talk may lead to a successful relationship with your colleague from other team. I don't know. I can't say that there's a specific trick or specific. There are specific methods of gaining trust. But in my 3 points and in my key roles, I tried to summarize what I did.
There is also a kind of a question from Anna. You rock, Anastasia. How can I contact you?
Thank you.
How can I contact you? I believe LinkedIn should be the
Yeah,
best channel, right?
yeah, that's right, LinkedIn. And I'm going to join the networking area right after my presentation, so you can find me there.
And who knows, Anastasia, maybe you will encourage Anna to come to Log from Home next time with with her speech.
Yeah, who knows?
Okay, good. I think this was the last question, unless you guys want to raise your hand and ask question in live. Or maybe you would like to type in something. Go in once, go in twice. Anyone else? Anastasia, I think you can already try to remind all of these questions and pick up the best one.
I liked most the question about, let me find it.
May I help you?
Sorry. That was a question about a question from Hee Young Kim about where in the org chart do you think localization should belong? Because this is also my concern nowadays, and I'm thinking of kind of repositioning my team in terms of organization chart.
Great, then Hee Young Kim, the book is yours. Congrats to you, Anastasia. Thank you very much for this very
Thank you,
nice,
Max.
very open-minded presentation.
Thank you guys for having me today.
Yep, you're welcome to come, and looking forward to see you on networking.